We go. The union's most recent proposal is seeking a salary cap of just below 9.5 million and 27.5% of the shared revenue over the lifetime of the league. A source familiar with the league says the claims this would result.
In the cutthroat, multi-billion-dollar world of professional sports, there's a stark difference between a PR battle and cold, hard financial reality. Right now, the WNBA Players Association is learning the hard way. You cannot use social media clout to rewrite a corporate balance sheet. For the past 6 months, mainstream sports media has been feeding the public a polished, misleading narrative about the looming WNBA collective bargaining agreement lockout. It's been framed as a noble fight for equality, players simply demanding their fair share of a newly minted economic pie. But behind closed doors, in executive suites where the real financial modeling happens, a very different, unforgiving battle is raging. Owners just dropped a financial nuclear bomb that has the power to reshape women's professional basketball forever. What we are seeing is the unraveling of the players' negotiating leverage, driven by catastrophic financial leaks, convoluted corporate accounting, and a deep, toxic generational divide inside the union itself. To understand why the 2026 season is teetering on the edge, you must ignore the emotional press conferences and follow the cold, unvarnished money trail. It leads straight to a newly published explosive report from Front Office Sports, a report that dismantles the central arguments of the players' union and exposes the harsh reality of the league's actual viewership metrics. The union has built its multi-million-dollar demands on the belief that the league is swimming in cash thanks to soaring TV ratings and sold-out arenas. Yet they conveniently ignore the uncomfortable truth. This economic surge is not league-wide. It's a highly localized microeconomy, driven by just a fraction of the workforce. Listen closely to the brutal reality. The league's actual viewership metrics reveal why the owners are flat-out refusing to pay the entire roster for a windfall generated almost entirely by one specific demographic.
I've been telling y'all, they want this revenue, right? They don't have the viewership to cover the revenue they want.
The cold, mathematical reality is this. The WNBA as a 36-team collective does not have the sustained historical viewership to justify the astronomical revenue-sharing demands being pushed at the negotiating table. Outside off the Caitlin Clark economy, the Angel Ree economy, and a handful of established superstars, most of the league is still operating under the same stagnant financial metrics that have plagued it for nearly 3 decades. You simply cannot expect billionaire owners to radically restructure their entire long-term financial architecture based on a one-year surge fueled by a single generational draft class. Yet that is exactly what the players' union is demanding. To understand why the union leadership is willing to risk a catastrophic league-wide lockout over these specific demands, you have to look beyond the rookies and examine the underlying psychology of the veteran players controlling the collective bargaining strategy. A silent generational civil war is brewing inside WNBA locker rooms. It's driven by a veteran establishment that spent 10 to 15 years playing in partially empty arenas, flying commercial, and earning modest salaries while keeping the league afloat. Now, these same veterans are staring at a tidal wave of new revenue, massive TV deals, global attention, and unprecedented cash brought in by the next generation. And they feel a powerful, almost desperate entitlement to claim their share before their athletic windows close for good. Listen closely. This is the unfiltered, raw force driving the unyielding deadlock at the negotiating table.
Want some money because they're on the tail end of their careers. This isn't about Caitlin. This isn't about none of the young players. This whole holdup is about these old players that's on the tail end of their contracts. And it's
The veteran leadership in the WNBA Players Union is acting with extreme financial urgency because their careers are nearing the end. They know that if they settle for a conservative, incremental collective bargaining agreement, they'll retire long before the league's massive financial upside ever hits their bank accounts. Effectively, they're trying to orchestrate an unprecedented cash grab. They're leveraging the meteoric momentum of Caitlin Clark to extract maximum capital from ownership, framing it as a retroactive reward for years of underpaid service during a low-revenue era. But billionaire owners aren't running charities. They are ruthless, calculated private equity investors and corporate titans, unwilling to subsidize veteran retirement funds at the expense of long-term profit. And this brings us to the most misunderstood, complex element of the dispute: the structural, almost impenetrable corporate accounting architecture of the WNBA. The Players' Union has pointed to the newly negotiated $2.2 billion 11-year media rights deal as proof that the league is rolling in cash. They're demanding immediate redistribution via a 27.5% gross revenue share and a massive salary cap spike. But the explosive front office sports report lays bare the truth. The $2.2 billion isn't what it seems. It exposes the heavy extraction by the NBA before a single dollar even reaches the individual teams. The mathematical reality? On paper, many franchises are effectively broke, despite what the massive TV deal might suggest.
42% to bucket control by NBA owners and 16% to new investors. Each WNBA franchise will get roughly $13 million.
This right here is the heart of the financial deadlock, a masterclass in what analysts call Hollywood accounting. The WNBA Players Union believes a $200 million per year media deal translates directly into $200 million for salaries and benefits. But they're ignoring a crucial reality. The NBA, the entity that has heavily subsidized the WNBA for nearly 3 decades, controls 42% of the league's equity. On top of that, 16% is legally earmarked for new private investors who recently injected capital to keep the league operational during its expansion phase. Do the math. Subtract the NBA's 42% and the 16% owed to investors, and 58% of the revenue disappears before individual WNBA teams even open their books. That means the 15 WNBA franchises aren't dividing $200 million. They're dividing roughly $5.6 million per team per year from the TV deal. $5.6 million per team. That's barely a fraction of what's needed to run a sustainable professional sports franchise. It's nowhere near enough to fund the $9.5 million collective salary cap the union is demanding. Because of this convoluted, highly structured ownership model, the income statements of individual WNBA teams are effectively meaningless. Most revenue is siphoned off at the league level to service decades of debt and satisfy the equity demands of NBA power brokers who pull the strings. Yet the Players' Union barges into the negotiating room demanding 27.5% of gross revenue, before the NBA's 42% cut, before the investors' 16%, before league-wide charter flights, arena leases, and marketing costs. When billionaire owners ran the union's proposal through their elite corporate accountants and projected the 10-year financial reality, the result was terrifying. The numbers were so detached from rational business logic that negotiations effectively ended on the spot. These are the catastrophic figures owners presented, the definitive reason they are prepared to risk a multi-year lockout rather than sign a collective bargaining agreement that would bankrupt the league.